Welcome back, my super soul sisters. Okay, and today we're going to talk about black swan shoes. This is something that I picked up from Chris Voss. He was a very interesting guy, actually, quite hardcore. He's from the States and he was a hostage negotiator and a very successful one. I understand that he's had 100% success rate with, capturing, the bad guys and releasing whatever the hostage is without being harmed. It was interesting to investigate his strategies, because I thought, well, if we can understand, if he can negotiate someone who, has got someone captive and gets them released, and even have it where people phone him, the hostage, takers actually contact him or the people that he's trained and go, hats off to you, you did a good job. He's got a really good communication style. He's got something going on that obviously a lot of us don't. And I thought, well, we don't want anything that extreme by any stretch of the imagination. But what I liked about his stuff was, there's a lot about lie detection and stuff, and they're very fascinating, but I'm not going to delve into that today. What I want to talk about today is his black swan method, which is effectively, what is it that they're not telling you? So we want to be looking into and again, it's kind of like, what's the actual driver behind this? It might be a negative one. Obviously, in his case, it was always negative because it was hostages being taken. But what was fascinating is he said where he learned this from was when he first did his training. The FBI over there, when they did, hostage negotiation situations, they always took it pretty much at face value. So there was one instance, and it's quite gruesome. It was like some guy who took hold of a bank. He was an ex-army guy or some kind of soldier. I can't remember the exact story, but I think he does tell it on YouTube. You can always go and have a look at it if you really want to. But yeah, a little bit disturbing in the fact that it was, where they took these guys, and the guy said he was there to take the money. Obviously, the FBI assumed that that's actually what the story was that this guy was obviously after the cash. And it turned out that he was a disgruntled vet that hadn't got the recognition, or felt that he hadn't got the recognition that he should have had, and actually wanted to be seen as dying a hero, which is a little bit odd. But like I was saying to you before, if you go back to the beginning of all my training stuff, one of the 4 pillars of NLP is even behind every negative behavior, it doesn't matter what the behavior it is, positive or negative, there's always a positive intention. And for him it was, he wanted to see that people, he wanted to demand the respect, that he had control, that he was significant. So apparently he got back, he didn't get any recognition, he didn't get any medals, he didn't, which is a common thing. I mean, if you look at the Vietnam War, I think there was a lot of that going on too, wasn't there? Anyway, so he was really got quite ticked off, and it was like, well, I'll show you. And it actually had nothing to do with money. And they landed up coming up with a term called death by cop. So really, he put himself into a situation where, because he had hurt somebody, they had no option other than to take him out. But they said what was really odd about his behavior, what stood out, was that once he had hurt the person, he quite literally stood at the window with all the his guns and ammunition and everything down, and just stood at the window knowing that he was going to get taken out. So it was, he had done whatever he had said to do. Not a great scenario at all. But what they came away from that with was, we can't take it at face value. We look at situations and we go, X plus Y equals Z. Well, sometimes it doesn't, and we've got to look for what the actual, we've been discussing, what the actual drivers are. But in this case, he calls them black swans. What is it that they don't want you to know. So he spoke about another instance, which I thought was really interesting, where there was another bank robbery and he landed up taking over the negotiation. I can't remember why. It is in his audiobook, I understand, and written book. I think it's called Never Split the Difference, because he now works with corporates negotiating those hardcore big make or break deals. And when they, quite often these agendas that do not want to be disclosed, and he kind of goes in there and susses out what the black swans are, like what are those things that are sitting in the background that, if we shone a light on it, would actually make it an even play and have a better result for everybody, and probably more fair at the end of the day. And he's really quite onto it. So in this instance, he was talking about how there was this bank robbery going down, and there was this hostage taking situation, because what actually transpired when he started talking to all these guys was that the lead guy was pretending that he wasn't the lead guy, and he had actually taken in his these other guys, and it was supposed to be I don't know if you can call it petty theft, but lightweight. It wasn't supposed to be breaking into their safe or taking any of the hardcore stuff. It was literally going to be what the others thought, which I only later found out was the bank teller's cash, and then take off with the cash. Now what happened is he got in there, and then the lead guy, who pulled out a weapon and threatened everyone and said, take me to your actual safe so that we can get proper cash. And the other ones didn't know anything about it, got scared, and the cops got alarmed, and the runaway car, the getaway car, panicked and took off. So they were now in the situation that they're now stuck in this bank. The other guys in the group were like, we didn't buy into this isn't what we actually wanted. And now you've got this lead guy going, oh well, too late, we're already here. But what he was telling the negotiators, the FBI guys, was that he wasn't the lead guy, that he was a spokesman for whoever it was. And through Chris's right questioning and liaising with the others, he managed to get everybody out safely. He managed to get put their hands down. He guaranteed the safety of the guy, saying, look, you can come out, you won't get harmed. I mean, there would be justice. And what I liked about him is he's always been very honest about it. He's like, look, I can't guarantee that you're not going to get jail time, but I can tell you that we won't, as long as you don't harm anyone, we won't harm you. So he was always able to get that. And I'm sure there might have been times, I might have my facts wrong with the, nobody getting hurt, but certainly minimized and always managed to get the hostages released, which I thought was incredible. So the idea about having black swan shoes is understanding what's not being said, what's not being, where's the light not being shone. So like in a business instance, like quite recently I had a situation where it was quite challenging actually. This is my other business, and a lot of work had been done, and he had got some money from the government in order to do it, but he didn't want to release the money. So the work had been committed, the work had been done, and then he decided he actually wanted to hang on to the money. So what he was actually trying to do was then engage further services without even having paid for the last lot, saying that that's actually what what I say, looking for the cockroach. You know how they put the cockroach in the food and then they say, oh, there's something wrong with this food. Well, they've eaten the food and then there's a tiny little bit left and they stick the cockroach in. I remember seeing that in some movie somewhere, so I always call it the cockroach in the food. So it was like, what's really going on? Anyway, when it turned out he had a lot of health issues. It turned out that he had a massive heart attack recently. He had heart conditions, and that his business really was rocky because of the pandemic, and he really needed the money to actually run his business. So what Chris Voss says is like, you actually shine the light on the issue straight up. You go, let's just park everything and let's just talk about the white elephant in the room. Let's just say, I'm guessing, and also how you say it, I'm guessing that, you're taking a lot of strain. And this is actually how I handled it. It looks like you're taking a lot of strain. You're in a lot of overwhelm. You seem to be having to do a lot more things than you ordinarily would. You've got these 4 businesses, and you're trying to do it all yourself. He was an elderly guy. He should be retiring. He's having to go back into his business again, and this particular incident, he landed up getting so wound up, not from my conversation, but he did land up having this heart attack. And I was saying, look, you need to take a breath and de-stress and let off the steam in healthy ways. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there isn't going to be any negotiation on that, because the money was released purely for this work, and there isn't any room for negotiation, because that's just how the government work is. Like, you have to stick to the rules, obviously. And he just wasn't up for that. He just didn't want to let that go. And I said, look, I'm really sorry that this is all happening for you. So I didn't compromise on the price. I didn't compromise on the projects. I didn't compromise on any of that. But I was able to let off a lot of his pressure by understanding, as we know in NLP, you're stepping into their map of the world and using language that he could understand, and getting to grips with how it could be done better. And eventually the money was released, not for the second round that we were commissioned to do, but certainly got enough to cover what was required in order to get those things done, to pay all the bills. So, but I do want you to also be aware of the black swans that happen again in marketing. It's like, it's not just marketing, it's positioning from, dare I say, politicians. It might be some core leaders, it could be councils, it could be religious, it can be, in marketing, it can be anything. What's the black swan? Look for the black swan, and sometimes there's more than one. So sometimes I go, look, okay, and I'm very intuitive, so I often go, something's off here. And then most people, I don't know why they do this, but it seems to be a common thing. I don't know if they want to be offensive, or if they don't want to, I don't know what it is, but they don't go, I'm sensing that this is, or shining the spotlight on the very thing that could be actually needing to be discussed. So it makes life a lot easier when you can get that elephant out of the room, and then you can actually talk about the real thing. So sometimes I actually push the whole project aside, or the whole whatever it is, this, like when people come to talk to me with counseling or coaching, they give me all the surface level stuff, and I push it aside. I go, okay, what I'm picking up is this, and this. I could be wrong. Are any of those things right? And would you like to discuss it? Because that's what you're really here for. So rather than playing the game that everybody always plays, how about we engage on a different level, on a deeper level, where it's going to shift the business, or shift the person, or shift that relationship to the next level. Whatever it is that's required, it's stepping in behind it and knowing what those black swans are. So being aware of that, like a lot of people dismiss the intuition, dismiss the that sensing, that that higher self thing that I was talking about before, where when you tune in and you get that feeling, the goosebumpy, not that something's off, but it's just like a little warning bell. It's like, I might just look into that, what's really going on over here. And then when you get it, then you've got more facts, that you can then make a decision from. So like, you know, it might be the make or break of whether you actually do business with someone or get into a relationship with someone, or if they are asking for your vote, or they're wanting you to buy their product, if you can step in behind it and go, well, is that really, you know, like the real driver behind this? Is that the, you know, what is it that you're not showing us? So often I find it a lot in business where they're struggling. They try to make it look like they're bigger and better than what they actually are, or even you know, it doesn't matter the size of the business. This goes right across the board. And it's like, you know, don't show the weaknesses, only show the strengths. And it's like, well, you know, you kind of want to have your glasses, not rose-colored ones. You want to take those off and go, right, what's really happening here? What's the black swan? Now, those black swans, when you find them, if it's a relationship and you go that you're entering into, you might go, actually, those aren't so bad. I can handle that. But if you're in a situation like, I remember Tony Robbins saying that he got involved in one situation where he signed up with these guys and he was all like, you know, game, let's make it happen. And then what he landed up finding was that they were pretty much going bankrupt. And so he was suddenly liable for all this, like millions, literally millions and millions of dollars, because he took it at face value. He didn't see the black swans. And you know what, they had this amazing marketing team, amazing PR, and then like what's sitting in behind it, he didn't do that, you know, at the time. So he said, expensive lesson. He did manage to sort it, but he was now liable for literally millions of dollars that he had to come up with to bail them out, because they were now partners. So that's kind of like why you want to, it gives you that added sense of protection. It also gives you the ability to go in without rose-colored glasses. It gives you the opportunity to go and do your research and go, right, you know, the doctors or whatever say that this is the way that it should be done. You know, what's the real driver? I mean, like some people, you know, might go, well, the pharmaceuticals make, you know, lots of money out of that. But, you know, by the same token, if it does work, then you want to weigh that up, but you want to know that before you take it, right? So it's just giving you that extra, I suppose, training, awareness. Also, it removes that naivety around making really important decisions sometimes, and it really helps you with negotiations, no matter whether it's in a private scenario or in business. You know, when you've got more facts, you can make a better educated decision, can't you? So anyway, I hope you found that useful. Tell me if you've ever noticed, like you now know about black swan shoes. It's like, what's a black swan there? And you've gone, do you know, I learned that through this scenario. That just reminds me of this one time where that actually did happen to me. And I was like, damn, you know, I went for that hook, line and sinker. I didn't question it. I just took it on board. It came as such a surprise. I got absolutely blindsided by this thing, or where, you know, they were saying one thing so often, and often this is politics and marketing, but that, you know, and even medical, they throw up all these other things to distract you. Meanwhile, back here, something's coming in from behind, so that if you're over here being distracted, something else is keeping them busy behind the scenes. So, you know, just check out what those black swans might be. I know it sounds skeptical, but yeah, I never heard of black swans until I heard about Chris Voss, and really, I mean, it's a fundamental of relationships, really, at the end of the day. And we all, and dare I say, I think we're more prone to doing that now because of social media. Everybody's wanting to have this, you know, beautiful facade, you know, everything's perfect, you know, this gorgeous, wonderful life, and then meanwhile back at the ranch, you know, there might be some big black swans floating around in the background that, not ideal. and it's just an awareness really more than anything, and it has made a difference for me, especially for business. And I kind of was doing this anyway in my therapy stuff and my coaching, but I hadn't called it that, and I wasn't certainly aware of it. And it's more of the black swans quite often have a negative intention about it, whether the person knows it or not. You know, sometimes they're so bought into the culture, they think that that's just how they're supposed to do it. Or that person is just so desperate, like in the case of that man, he was just so desperate to get money just to pay bills that he would do anything, you know. But when you get that, you know, there's a level of empathy. And I'd love to know if you've ever had some black swans in your life, like, wow, that reminds me of that scenario. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. So, share it in the comments box, and if you found that useful, please can you like, share, subscribe if on YouTube. If you're in Facebook, yeah, just maybe share, you know, this group with other lovely ladies who wish to be empowered, because I really want you to all this awareness helps you to take that next step, gets you aware of what shoes work for you, what shoes don't. When somebody's wearing other shoes and they're trying to influence what shoes you're wearing, which is what black swans are all about, it's like, well, you know, that something goosebump shoes on, well, I'm not so sure about that, what is it? And then we can step into the shoes that we do want, so that you're in your shoes, on your path, going your own way. Now, Soul Sisters, you know what time it is. It's time for you to take the next step. So thank you very much for joining me. And again, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Namaste.